greatest gamers out there. Welcome to the PlayersToo Podcast, the video game podcast for gamers like you, by gamers like you. You can find PlayersToo on all the social media, that's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, the lot. You can also find our written content over at playerstoo.com, that's PLAYERSTOO.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts, that would be very, very much appreciated. It does a huge amount for the exposure of the show. And it really does take you 5 seconds. Hashtag 5 seconds, 5 stars. We're going to make it a thing. It's going to be a thing. Also, while you're over there, if you could give us a wee review as well. We don't have to write a huge diatribe or anything like that. A wee thumbs up emoji will do us over here. It really, really helps us as well. Okay, on with the show. My name is Mark Henderson. With me as always, Mr. Lewis Gamley. How's it going, Lewis?
It's going not bad at all, Mark. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Ready to talk about some video games,
Good
I
stuff.
think. What have you been playing this week?
More Baba Is You, which is just this endless maze of great puzzles. If you listened to last week's show, I kind of introduced that game, and yeah, it's just so much fun. Lots and lots of extremely difficult puzzles that I've come across so far.
Do you know how many puzzles there actually are in it?
I do not know.
Is it literally just endless logic puzzles, or is there like an end?
There's an overworld, so I think that there is an end. It's sort of unlocking different areas, like there's a forest, there's an ice place, there's a blah blah blah.
Okay.
And so it looks to me like I'm about halfway through that, but that is not to say that there isn't far more beyond what I can actually see at the moment. It feels like a big game, partly because sometimes you're just sat there for half an hour looking at one screen without really doing anything. And then there's kind of like bonus levels and stuff within each area that maybe repeat puzzles, but with like one tweak. And so you know the solution that you just did, and then you play this bonus level, and then one element has been removed, and it suddenly
It changes everything.
Yeah, it's like double as hard. So that's been great fun. I've also, speaking of difficulty, I've been playing a bit more of Cuphead, which I've not quite finished yet, as you have.
You're getting there, though, man.
And as you said last week as well, the third island, Inkwell Island 3, is just not really as difficult as the previous two.
What I think actually happens here is that I think that the first island, relatively speaking, is obviously pretty easy by comparison to the other two. However, I think that the difficulty jump from Island 1 to Island 2 is quite a significant jump.
Definitely.
Whereas the jump from Grim Matchstick, who is basically the last boss you're likely to fight on World 1, and then in World 2, yes, and some of the early bosses in World 3 is actually a bit of a downstep, because I found Grim Matchstick really, really difficult, and some of the early bosses in World 3 I kind of found alright by and large, and then some of them I found like just outright easy.
Yeah.
But then also two of the most difficult bosses in the entire game are on that world, so there you go.
Yeah, I've encountered certainly one of the most difficult bosses.
That robot guy, man.
This robot
guy is an absolute wallop.
It doesn't give you enough time while you're fighting him to really understand what you're supposed to do. And that's the thing about Cuphead, is that each time you try a boss fight, you're essentially trying to learn what the tricks are to get through it.
Yep.
But you're not playing against him long enough to learn those tricks, because it kills you within about 5 seconds.
He can kill you very, very quickly. I can tell you, but I'm not going to.
No, don't tell me yet. I might come crawling to you for hints later.
Listeners, I'll let you know if Lewis comes crawling to me for advice. I'll
have to corroborate that, though. And beyond that, I have been jumping a little bit back into The Breach, which is our big sort of play-along game this month. We hope some of you have grabbed a copy and are playing along with us. So we'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks' time, but really good to be in and about that, and just playing with kind of new squads and just trying out different stuff. It's been good fun. Yeah,
I think I'm definitely going to have to go back to it again before we do the episode. It was just such a great game. It was genuinely one of my highlights of last year.
Definitely.
I would say. Definitely. Really, really, really great game.
And the one other thing which we've both been playing,
of course,
which we kind of announced, Mark announced last week on the show that we were going to be playing it, is the new Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel,
which looks amazing, and I am absolutely awful at it.
He's real bad. So
I don't know what's happened. I used to be so good at it. I used to be better than you, and you were absolutely cleaning the floor with me. Absolutely cleaning the floor with me. I was so sad.
You were beating yourself up about it, but it does have a fairly sort of.
It was very upsetting.
Yeah, it's not got too much of a kind of difficulty curve, but
no, it doesn't. It's just about timing your slides. And really.
And you were trying other characters.
And I was kind of mixing up, and you were just going the tested and true Dingo Dial.
Dingo Dial's my boy. But basically, we jumped on as soon as we finished recording last week, we jumped on and played the original cups that were in, I think it was just 4 cups, right? That, 4 or 5?
No, I think it was 4. I think it was 4, 4.
That were in the original game back in the day. So these are the levels that we played again and again and again as kids.
It was quite nostalgic. It was quite nice.
Great.
It was good fun. And it just has such a sense of speed compared to Mario Kart.
Totally.
And the weapons, when they connect, like when you hit someone with a rocket in CTR, it feels like it's like, yeah, fuck you. It's unlike Mario Kart, it's just like, ooh,
yeah, and then you know what I mean?
Scream
it's
not very family friendly or whatever. But yeah, it feels as if when you hit someone with one of those bowling balls in particular, it feels as if like a nukes went off. It's awesome. Anyway, it's very, very satisfying. Well, I finished Night in the Woods.
Nice one.
The indie game that I was mentioned that I was playing last week. It got better in the second half. I still didn't like it as much as I thought that I would like, and it just kind of ends at a point as well.
Oh, really?
Like, it just kind of gets to a point and then stops, which was quite interesting for an indie title, but it was good. It was worth playing. I probably wouldn't
rush out and buy it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be overly keen to recommend it to people. I think that if you're going to spend the amount of money that Night in the Woods still sells for, which is maybe about 15 quid, I think there are quite a lot of other better indie games you could buy. Even if you were looking for something very narrative focused, I think that there's a lot out there that you can buy for the same amount of money that's probably of equal or better quality, to be totally honest. Not that it's a bad game, not saying that it's a bad game at all. It was good. I'm kind of glad that I played it. I'm definitely glad that I saw it through.
Yeah.
But now that that's out the way, I've now been able to start Sekiro, the From Software Shinobi game. Yeah. I don't know what all the fuss is about. It's really easy.
He's doing a face. He can't possibly be telling you.
It's so brutal. It's one of the most exhausting games I think I've ever played in my life. Just doing everything is just like, oh, right, I need to think about, how am I going to take these guys, and then I can like stealth kill these ones, and then maybe when they're gone, then I can maybe have half a chance at beating those two, and then after that I'll probably need to heal 3 times, so I'll probably need to go back to where I started and heal up, and then that just resets the enemies again. I'm like weirdly enjoying it, but it is in a sort of masochistic sort of way. It's interesting. This is the first From Software game I've properly played. I did have Bloodborne, and I did give that a go, but I played Bloodborne for about 8 hours and was still... Basically, it was at the start of the game. It was crazy how long I'd played it, and I was still at the start of the game. And I just kind of fell away from it. It was at a time in my life where I wasn't really gaming in that sort of way. I was more in it for like kind of quick experiences, and I couldn't like sit down for long periods of time to like get stuck and get good, as the kids say. Yeah.
As they demand these days.
As they demand it, yes, they demand it. But no, it's really good. It's really, really punishing. It's really punishing. Like, you cannot fuck up. And the parry system that they've got in there, which is quite different from what I remember about Bloodborne being a much more kind of duck and roll sort of system.
And ducks and rolls,
whereas this is much more parry focused, and it's really important, particularly when you're fighting bosses and mini bosses, to be on it with that. And I've just never really played games that way. I was always much more rolling about and dodging, because it was more fun and more exciting than trying to get like perfect blocks and things like that. Whereas that's actually a really important mechanic in this game, and it's really, really difficult to do.
It's so hard to master, isn't it?
Particularly because when you get hit with anything that you don't block perfectly, like 2/3 of your health are gone, and that's the end of that. Start again. Reset all the enemies.
It's that same problem from Cuphead. You often don't have enough time within a battle to learn what it is that you're supposed to do in order to get through it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I must admit there was a couple of instances where I was like that, where I was just like, I have been stuck on these two. It wasn't even bosses, it was mini bosses for such a long period of time. But basically, I did kind of get good and did it eventually. And there was one time I kind of went away from a boss and went back to it. And I'd done another couple of things, and I beat another mini boss, and then came back to this other mini boss that I just thought there's no way that I'm going to be able to do this. And then I actually kind of dealt with him like third time, which made me feel quite good, because it was like, oh, I'm actually getting better at this. Although I'm continuously getting bludgeoned to death over and over and over again, and I'm still dying quite a lot. Like, at least I know that I'm learning through this process, you know? I am not entirely convinced I'm going to finish this game. No. I'm going to be straight with you. But I'm going to definitely continue with it for a while until I cannot bear it anymore.
My fear with it when I was playing it was that it would just be superseded by essentially easier games at some point, that the impulse, and I suspect it will happen to you with Wolfenstein, which is dropping in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but that'll be short and we'll be playing it together, so I'll be playing that by myself. I've thought about this.
Maybe, yeah. But just when those games come along that you're like, well, I can blaze through this in 15 hours versus getting punished by Sekiro for another 80. But, my experience of it was that I was really enjoying it, and more so even than Bloodborne, those defeats made me want to get better at it, whereas with Bloodborne I was a bit like, we're just doing this 4 hours and nothing's really happening.
Yeah,
so.
Bloodborne in particular, I think that the problem with Bloodborne is that first world that you're in really is one of the least interesting worlds in the whole game, and it's quite bleak, and it's not really a very nice place to be, although the whole thing isn't really a nice place to be in. But Sekiro looks quite beautiful. Like, it's an absolutely stunningly good looking game, I think, anyway, and definitely more aesthetically pleasing to stare at for hours and hours and hours than the opening level of Bloodborne was. You know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe that kind of psychologically made me want to kind of be there for longer, but it's hard. it's really hard. Okay, well, we go on to the news.
Let's do it.
All right, and news item number 1. There's a new Nintendo Switch loose. It's called the Nintendo Switch Lite. And we published a podcast a week ago, and we missed this news by about 12 hours. And I was very, very sad about it. Nonetheless, we will cover it now. So it's going to be a handheld-only, lighter version of the Switch. It's going to have no HD rumble. It's going to have no detachable Joy-Cons. It's going to have no IR sensor, and it's going to have no kickstand. It is, however, going to have a proper D-pad, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be smaller. It's going to be 3.6 inches by 8.2 versus 4 by 9.4 for the regular Switch, and it's going to have a 5.5 inch screen versus 6.2 on the regular Switch. It's going to be about 30% lighter. I've written down 0.5 and I don't know what it means. 0.5 hours, it's half an hour more battery life. Right. That's what it is. It's also going to come in turquoise, grey and yellow. So there you go. It's coming out on the 20th of September. It's going to cost $199, and there will be a Pokemon Sword and Shield version, which will come out on November the 8th. Thoughts?
I think this is cool. I think we've been expecting this for a while now.
It's like one of the worst kept secrets in video games, this, isn't it?
It makes perfect sense, and we all kind of knew, particularly that in the lead up to the release of the new Pokemon games, that it would definitely, this is what it's being made for, effectively.
Oh, totally. 100%.
So no surprise to get this news eventually. The price point feels about right to me. It's roughly $100 less than a standard Switch is at the moment.
£199 and $199.
Yeah.
Sadly, that is the post-Brexit exchange rate world that we currently live in.
Yeah. That's true. Good grief. And yeah, it just, there's been quite a lot of consternation and a lot of teeth gnashing on the internet about the Switch Lite since it was revealed last week. But
that was all just a nonsense, wasn't it?
It seems to me to be a nonsense, yeah.
If you don't want it, don't buy it. There's a proper Switch there for you to go and buy. Buy that.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I just I think there's a value here for people who play a lot on the go, who might just say, well, and if money's kind of no object, that they can just spend the £200 or $200 on this and take it wherever and just leave their other one docked at home. Like we were saying there about Pokemon, the idea here really is that families will buy these, that other kids in the family can have their own.
This is not for the hardcore. No light version. I mean, they've called it light for a reason. This is not the hardcore device. Yeah. If you're a hardcore gamer, if you are a gamer who uses their Switch all the time, then this probably isn't for you. If you use it docked a lot, then definitely not for you. I mean, I use it docked a lot, at least 50% of the time I play my Switch docked. So this isn't for me, and that's cool. But I'm kind of glad that it's out there because it gets a lot more people into the Nintendo ecosystem. I mean, the Switch itself brought a lot of people into the Nintendo ecosystem that hadn't already been there. Me and Lewis being prime examples of this. And I just think that this is just going to do even more. So that 3DS crowd, do you know what I mean? This is kind of something for them. Do you know what I mean? All those people that bought, all those hundreds of millions of people that bought 3DSs and 2DSs and the whole DS range. Like, I think this is really a nod to them. This is like, if you still want a dedicated handheld device, here you go. And not only that, you can play Breath of the Wild on it. So great.
Well, exactly. So buy any device that will let you play Breath of the Wild on it for sure. It's a no-brainer. We've known it was coming. This is a big part of Nintendo's business plan, so it's good stuff. And I think the new colours look amazing as well. I feel like it.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I'm actually not mad keen on the colours.
I would buy that yellow one in a heartbeat, to be honest.
Do you really like? I've got to say, you wear a lot of kind of mustardy yellow things, so yeah, maybe it will blend in with one of your jumpers.
My aesthetic.
I must admit, that colour of grey, I'm just looking at them now, that colour of grey is probably a bit more pleasing than the grey ones that we currently have, actually. Kind of so I probably prefer that
gunmetal that we've got.
Yeah, that's a bit rubbish, really. I really wish I bought the blue and red
really?
one. Yeah, I really do.
I wish I had the fucking Joy-Con that worked, Mark. That's what I wish.
Well, this is the big problem, isn't it? Is that it's coming out today. You were just telling me that there's been a Kotaku article up in the last just a few hours even, saying that broken Joy-Cons and Joy-Cons with the joystick drifts is becoming an increasing problem. And sat here around this table, both of us have this problem. I mean, my problem is largely in menus and things like that it just drifts down all the time. But yours seems to like actually affect gameplay and is affecting you like playing Cuphead.
Yes, significantly at times. Yeah, my left joystick is dragging upwards, which is quite bizarre, even in handheld mode. So when I'm holding holding the Switch level in front of my face, it will drag upwards, which
really
defeats
that is
gravity. I read into it a bit, and it sounds like basically there's something under the kind of cap on the Joy-Con, which is giving the slightest bit of pressure in the upwards direction. It's probably just dirt or whatever, but you need to unscrew it to get under it and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's just a pain having to go through all that, because mine isn't that bad. I mean, mine doesn't affect gameplay, but mine also, if I were holding it in front of my face, it probably would drift down. But if I were holding it like flat, like as if it were on a table, it would probably be fine, to be honest. So mine's is more just, I don't know, loose, I suppose. And it's just kind of like...
But it might get worse, that's the thing.
Well, it undoubtedly will get worse. I mean, these things that's 100% going to get worse, definitely. And the fact that on the Switch Lite, you cannot take the Joy-Cons off now. Like you cannot replace them, even if you wanted to. I just hope that they've improved whatever technology or specs that they've put in those Joy-Cons, because or the joysticks, because right now they're really not very... I mean, I don't have a lot of complaints about the Switch.
No.
I do love the Switch quite a lot. I love the Switch despite this.
Yeah.
But it is quite a significant problem.
And it will become, if you reach a point where loads and loads of people are buying the Switch Lite and that starts happening on those. And so at the moment you can return your Joy-Cons to Nintendo, and it's like a small fee, and they will replace them, probably with ones that will break again. You'll have to go a few days without them, but at least just now you can hook up another controller or whatever. Yeah. Presumably on the Switch Lite, if that starts to happen, you just have to post your whole Switch away, and that's it. And you just can't play it for a while, which is really not good for gamers. So
yeah. Although this isn't for the hardcore, there are a couple of other drawbacks from it. Like, it doesn't have a kickstand at all now, and because the Joy-Cons are built in, if you want to play two players, then you need to connect another set of Joy-Cons separately. But then also you can't stand up the Switch, so you would have to be looking at it like flat down on a table. So it's not great for
or build your own kickstand type thing.
Yeah, or build. I mean, I'm sure there will be third party kickstands in a matter of hours after it was announced. To be completely honest, but also the other thing is transferring games and transferring save data between your primary Switch and your Lite if you did have the two. And it seems that on your main Switch, which we will be referring to as the Master Switch, because it's fucking awesome. I heard that on IGN. I'm nice. I'm not claiming credit for that, but it's definitely what it should be called. Yeah. So the Master Switch, which would have all your games on and all your downloads and whatever, you can transfer it if you're signed into your account on the Lite, but you can only play games that you've downloaded on your Master Switch on the Lite if the Lite is also connected to the internet, which kind of defeats the point if it's supposed to be handheld and very portable. Because if, say, you were on a train or something like that, I mean, it wouldn't be good enough train Wi-Fi. No. Or somewhere you were just somewhere without Wi-Fi, you know what I mean? Then you couldn't play any of your downloaded games. You would have to have physical cartridges for that. And with the save data, the cloud situation with Switch isn't brilliant, but as I understand it, is that you do have to have a Nintendo Switch Online account, and also not all games are compatible with the cloud syncing. So maybe not all of your save data is going to track across the two Switches, and I'm not sure what the uploading and downloading situation is like between that, because presumably the Lite would then again have to be connected to the internet to get your save data from the cloud. So yeah, it's all a bit murky.
This feels like a classic bit of Nintendo communications where there's... Like, this happened when they launched the online service. There was so many questions about it. Yeah,
absolutely. Apparently, Doug Bowser said that when it launches, there is going to be a system in place for this. I will believe that when I fucking see it, quite frankly. But
maybe they could just detail that before people start, making pre-orders.
Yeah, pre-orders for them. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that Doug Bowser said is that there would be no other Switch models released this year, which means that there will be no Pro version this year, at least.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm really looking forward to.
You think you'll upgrade?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
If it has a bigger 1080p screen, it has better battery life, it has Bluetooth, it has a reasonable place to plug in headphones. If I even has Bluetooth, I won't even need that. Forget about that. Don't care about that anymore. Yeah, in seconds. I would just sell the one that I've got just now and buy it immediately.
Fair enough. Well, that'll probably come next year. I still think that there's almost no chance that there's no pro version, right?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, the Wall Street Journal, when it broke that they were going to be bringing out a light version, they also broke that there would be a pro version as well. So presumably that will be kind of in line with when the next gen consoles are coming out to, I don't know, seem relevant still, I guess. No, the Switch is always relevant. It lives on forever. Okay, news item number 2. Twitch total hours streamed and total hours viewed is declined for the first time in over a year. And this seems to go hand in hand with the fact that Fortnite's viewership seems to have dipped a wee bit as well. But also in this article from, what was it called? Streamlabs, links as always in the show notes at PlayersToo.com. They show that YouTube Live is continuing to show steady increase in people streaming over there, and as well that Mixer has exploded with a 32% increase in their streamers over the past quarter, which I mean is a big increase, but I don't think even combined they're even in the ballpark, even in the realm of the amount of viewers and streamers that Twitch has. So yeah, I suppose there's two ways that you can look at this story. With Fortnite's viewership declining, have we seen the peak for Twitch, do we think? And have we seen the peak for Battle Royale games?
I think the first part of that question, have we seen the peak of Twitch? Possibly a little peak. I don't imagine that the next big thing won't just start to boost those numbers again. Twitch definitely feels like it's here to stay, and that I don't really see YouTube or Mixer or any of these other platforms making any serious inroads, particularly around gaming, maybe in other fields of kind of live streaming possibly, but in terms of gaming I think Twitch is dominant and people want to be there just now.
Yeah, I think I agree, to be honest with you.
But the question, the reason that I think this is an interesting story for gamers is that part, is this the tipping point for Battle Royales? It's definitely not the tipping point for Fortnite necessarily. Fortnite's viewership or hours streamed might be declining a bit, but it's still, the top game, one of the top games in the world, will be for some time. But if we're starting,
it's always going to have its audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many gamers who have been growing up in the last few years getting really invested in it. So it's not going to disappear by any stretch. But we've started to see kind of talk about these auto battlers, this auto chess kind of thing coming out of China. That's becoming quite a big thing. Can't say I know much about it.
That's not really in the top 20.
Not yet, yeah.
Seen. Well, when Dota auto chess came out, that was for a time. But then these things, again, because me and Lois don't particularly follow the PC space as closely as we do the console space, but it seems as if the original makers of that game have now spun off and are making their own thing, and then Valve are making their own thing for Dota, and then some other company are also making another auto battler, and it's all quite strange. To be honest with you, see those auto battlers, anytime I've ever read about them, I'm kind of thinking, maybe I should try this. Maybe I should try that.
There's something interesting about it as an idea.
Like MOBAs in general do absolutely nothing for me, but the concept of the auto battler is quite interesting. However, I kind of struggle to believe that this is it's the death of the battle royale. Yeah, because last night when I was on Twitch, I think GTA was number 1, and then the next 3 were Fortnite, PUBG, and Apex Legends. Well, so I'm like, you know what I mean? Is but they all kind of mix and match. If you look at the top things on Twitch at any one time, it's just, it depends on who's on and who's playing what. Like if Ninja decided that he's playing I don't know, like Elder Scrolls Online, then that'll be in the top 5.
Well, that's it, exactly.
It just depends who's playing what. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it feels like the Battle Royales will always be a kind of a baseline for Twitch. Like there'll always be people playing them and there'll always be people watching. But I'm interested to see if the numbers of people that have kind of gone onto Twitch because of things like Fortnite and Apex and are now maybe checking out other games. And so when we see something like the Dark Pictures Man of Medan come out in a few months' time, that's the kind of game that it won't hit massive numbers, obviously, but that some of those people who would normally watch Fortnite might bleed into that.
For a while, when it usually happens that when a big game first launches, it usually breaks into the top 10, it'll be there for about a week and it'll fall away into oblivion with all the other hundreds of games that are on Twitch. But yeah, those ones that are always there are the ones that I just mentioned. Dota is always there, League of Legends is always there, Hearthstone's always there, Overwatch is always there, CSGO is always there. You know what I mean? They're all just there. I mean, these are a whole bunch of, like, Warframe seems to be intermittently in and out of it as well. These are just a whole bunch of games that I know absolutely nothing about, and they are some of the biggest games in the world, and they just have these communities that are just insular, and they're all just talk amongst themselves, and if you're not part of the community, that's fine, and cool, right? keep to your MOBAs. All right, news item number 3. Assassin's Creed Odyssey bans creator mode XP farming. So for folks that don't know, the creator mode in Assassin's Creed Odyssey basically allows you to create your own quests within the game, and as far as I can tell, it's actually quite detailed, and you can put in like your own lines of dialogue and things like that. And people were using this tool that Ubisoft had given you to create quests that gave you like a lot of XP for very menial tasks. So if it was like move that rock from here to here, like here's 10,000 XP points, you know what I mean? Things like that. But subsequently Ubisoft have come out with this statement.
Story Creator Mode was designed to be a tool for players to let their creativity and imagination run free as they build their very own stories to share with others, using a modified version of the tools our own designers used to develop the quests in the game. These exploits risk jeopardizing the overall quality, integrity and purpose of Story Creator Mode, and results in less visibility for the creative, interesting and frankly fantastic community stories that have been published.
Yeah, and they've also come out and said that they will be sanctioning those that continue to create levels that are just used for XP farming. And I'm not really sure what sanctioned mean here, but I'm assuming it is a ban of some description, which all seems ridiculous to me. Like, this just seems absolutely nonsense. Ubisoft have given their community this tool. The community have used that tool to create missions that gave them more XP so that they could get through the game more quickly, or so that they could do levels that they couldn't otherwise do.
Yeah.
And then they've went, oh, no, change your mind, don't do that, or we'll ban you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you can't, it's like, oh, you're playing with the toy the wrong way. That's just a nonsense.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. And the fact that when Assassin's Creed Odyssey first launched, its XP curve that you needed to go on to the next level, say, early on in the game, was so unbelievably steep that they had this XP bonus booster which permanently gave you what was it, double XP? And it cost money within the game. It was a transaction that you had to, so you had to pay more money to get double XP permanently in the game to avoid the grind that they artificially put in. And now they put in this creator tool, and then people were using it to get round their artificial grind, and then they've went, no, you're playing with the tool wrong. Ban.
Yeah,
this is absolutely nonsense. This is so stupid.
Well, stupid. It's both stupid and, taking the cynical view, it's all about their income.
I'm absolutely taking the cynical
because
view. I've been following video games for long enough. I'm taking the fucking cynical view.
So they have made, as you just outlined there is an XP booster which you can pay Ubisoft to have. Then they come up with a system which is all about, supporting players to be creative, and they realise that you can use that to effectively make their XP booster irrelevant, and so they ban it.
Yes,
this is all.
Yes, that is exactly what they've done,
and it's just all been done. So that you'll have to buy their stupid XP booster for a game that they made too difficult to grind through in the first place, or not enjoyable.
Not too difficult to, but it just the grind was just long.
Yeah.
And it's one of these games as well where if you see an enemy who's, say, level 15 and you're level like 13. Like, it'll wipe the floor with you. It's not as if you can even kind of get around that, It very much forces you to have to grind. Mm-hmm. I mean, at this point as well, the game's nearly out a year.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Come on, just let them play with your tool.
Yeah.
You actually introduced a really cool thing, and then you went, oh, no, we still want you to buy the XP booster. So we're pulling this all back. And if you continue to have fun, then we'll ban you.
Yeah.
Haha.
It's massively overshadowed what was the launch of, like you say, quite a cool idea.
A really cool idea.
Seemed like it was generating some really interesting quests and stories that the players were making themselves. Even their DLC kind of lifespan is coming to an end now. I think they've got a final update in the way.
They've got a final update coming out really soon. It might have been next week, actually. But yeah, I think that's basically the end. And it's just like, just let them use it to get XP. Just let them use it to play the game.
Yeah, just enjoy it. Yeah,
fuck off. Bye. Okay, and news item number 4. This was actually a news item from last week that I kind of missed a bit because I never really thought it was a massive news, I guess. But we're going to kind of tie 2 news stories together, so stick with me, folks. Google Stadia will only be available on 4 phones at launch. And these are the Pixel 3, the 3A, the 3XL, and the 3A XL. And if you're thinking, Mark, they all sound like variations of the same phone, you would be right. That is 100% is, in fact, not 4 phones, it is 1 phone. It is 4 variations of 1 phone that it will be available on. And it will also run on any tablet running Chrome OS, which I'm not actually very sure what that is, because I am entirely on iOS, and I don't really know much about all this stuff. Also, Google have confirmed that there will be more than 30 titles available for Stadia at launch. And these are, deep breath in, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Baldur's Gate 3, Borderlands 3, The Crew 2, Darksiders Genesis, Destiny 2, Doom Eternal, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Elder Scrolls Online, Farming Simulator 19, Final Fantasy 15, Football Manager, Get Packed, Grid, Guilt, Just Dance, Metro Exodus, Mortal Kombat 11, NBA 2K, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, Rage 2, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Samurai Showdown, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Tom Clancy's The Division 2, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Thumper, Trials Rising, Wolfenstein Youngblood. Hey, you got through it.
That's the most reading you've ever done.
I don't do books, mate. Anyway, I mean, pretty good lineup. I mean, the iOS thing is nonsense. I mean, surely we have to believe that it'll all be coming to iOS quickly after it launches.
Yeah. It seems like they're just doing it on their own phones first to make sure it works, probably.
It'll probably be their own phones, Android, iOS, about a year later, which is kind of dumb.
Oh, I wouldn't think as much as that, but
I don't know.
You think so?
Yeah, I think we'll try and corner the market.
I think that'd be pretty bad. I think
it'd be. Yeah, I think it'd be stupid, but I think that's what they're going to do.
I would assume they would want it on iOS like a month later. You know?
No. I bet it's quite a way. At least 6 months. At least 6 months.
That'll be interesting.
Anyway, yeah. So their own phones first. So the Google Pixels first, then Android, then iOS is how this is eventually going to get rolled out. And I'm willing to bet that it will be 6 months to a year, is what I'll say after it initially launches on their own phones.
Dead in the water if they do that, but cool.
Could be dead in the water anyway. But the gaming lineup is pretty great, I think. I mean, if you were saying a console's going to launch with all those titles on it, I mean, fair play.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of easy to come along once everyone's already put these games out and eat all their lunches.
Yeah, I suppose so. Right, just a couple of shout outs to finish things off. Nothing major came out over the last week. I suppose Dragon Quest Builders 2 is the main game that came out. It seems to be, it's got a good Metacritic score. It's got an 86. Do not be a slave to the Metacritic, though.
You're trying to make that a thing as well now.
Don't be a slave to the Metacritic. That should be universally known. But if it's your sort of game, it does nothing for me personally. But if you like Dragon's Quest or building, it might be for you. The other thing to mention was Mario Maker 2 from last week. It now has apparently 2 million levels uploaded, which is insane considering it only came out, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, so we were both saying that we are going to jump into Mario Maker 2 at some point, and to know that there's already over 2 million levels there that we can dive into, not all of a piece, not all particularly great, I would assume.
No, I reckon that was about 1% of it not worth playing, to be totally honest with you.
But that's still a fair number. So yeah, just really good stuff. If you've already jumped in, there's loads to play there. So it's one of these games for your Switch that's just going to last forever, kind of like Smash and other stuff like that. So
totally.
Good stuff.
Totally. Just one final thing that I wanted to mention was that we know that the loot box debate over on the BBC rages on. We talked about an article last week, which was that, what was it, £750 was spent by 3 kids under 10 in a matter of weeks FIFA, or something like that. And then now it's come out that some kids spent over $3,000 in a month on loot boxes. It's just crazy.
To put it into context of where this debate is going at the moment in the UK, obviously there's been other European countries which have already dealt with loot boxes and through some sort of legislation. These stories, that FIFA story that we talked about last week, drew a response from Tom Watson, who's the deputy leader of the Labour Party, very probably the next leader of the Labour Party, and therefore very possibly one of the next prime ministers of this country. That is finally the kind of level where we're getting to with people engaging with this issue. So expect some movement at some point, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. And just to reiterate from last week, if you are a parent out there and you are allowing your kids to play these games, I would really just make sure that your parental controls are in place, because quite frankly, these kids aren't dumb. They know what they're doing here, and they think that if they spend, I don't know, a few quid here and there, you're not going to notice it, and you might not. So just make sure that they can't do that, and that your bank accounts are being drained by fucking Fortnite, Anyway, go for a beer break.
Beer break it is.
And then back for Topic of the Week. And we are back with Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week this week is a bit of an interesting one. This is a bit of industry news around Watch Dogs Legion and the debate around the exploitation of their fans to make music for the game effectively. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who you might know from being an actor, also has a music production company called HitRecord that kind of crowdsources music, and it basically works as that if you have a guitar riff, then you can submit this to HitRecord, and then someone can play a bass line underneath that, and then someone can play a drum kit, and then if Ubisoft select your track to go into their game, and there is only going to be 10 selected, so it's very, very few, then they'll pay you for it, and each song gets $2,000, and that's split up accordingly. However, Mike Bithell of Thomas Was Alone and the upcoming John Wick Hex game, who we are big fans of here on PlayersToo, has said this.
This sucks. Pay people for their labour. Stop exploiting fans and hobbyists while devaluing the work of those with the gall to actually expect consistent payment for work done. Do better, Ubi. We're counting on you.
Yeah, bold words. And I mean, Ubisoft are a big company who can definitely afford to pay whoever they goddamn want to make music for their game, frankly. But I think their response to this basically is, we're trying to involve the fans. We're trying to involve the fans in getting their music or their art or whatever into their game. Because they also did this for Beyond Good and Evil 2, which was kind of talked about more at E3 last year, E3 2018, and as well there was a bit of a kind of backlash around that as well. I actually think Mike Bithell was
part of that as well.
Yeah, so I think this is a bit of a nuanced issue. I just thought it was quite a good thing to maybe have a bit of a discussion about, because as an industry, in gaming in particular, the working conditions are a big topic just now. Crunch is a big topic just now. People not getting paid for their work is a big topic just now. And then you see big publishers doing things like this. And I can understand why people like Mike Bithell, who is an independent developer and has probably struggled his whole life to get his games out, would take umbrage at this. You know what I mean? I can understand his reaction to it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree that it is quite a nuanced issue, and I don't think that there's a catch-all, things should be done this way or this way answer to this. My gut is that spec work, as this essentially is known as, speculative work, is...
Yeah, exactly. And that's the sort of industry term for it.
Yeah. It's a problem. It's a problem in a lot of industries, particularly the creative industry, which, I kind of work in real life, and it means that a lot of people...
Not the podcast life.
Yeah, this is a separate space. It means that a lot of people end up doing things or being asked to do things that they should expect payment for, and they aren't given payment for it. And usually it always comes down to this idea that exposure is a good thing, when in fact you can't feed yourself on exposure, right? You need, obviously exposure is a good thing and can lead to better things, but people also need to be paid. And so I think there's two sides to this argument, as you've kind of outlined there. Ubisoft are well within their rights to try and involve players, particularly players with some creative talent, in the making of their game. If you or I's name were in the credits of a game that we loved, that would be really cool.
That would be really cool.
But there are different ways to go about this, and the offer of $20,000 between 10 songs, so $2,000 per song, divided up between potentially, I mean, I don't know exactly how HitRecord works, but if you put in your bass line, or you could say write a whole song, like all the parts, on GarageBand and put it up. But
presumably, I would get the $2,000.
But if someone else comes along and adds a new vocal track on top of that and a new drum fill, do they take a share of your money, even though you uploaded the finished track? Like, that is a question I simply don't know the answer to.
I think that is how... I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. You can hit us up at PlayersToo if I'm totally wrong about this, but I believe HitRecord is supposed to be collaborative in that way. So you're not really supposed to upload a whole song. What you're supposed to do is upload an interesting guitar riff, or upload, lyrics, or you singing lyrics, and someone else thinking, oh well, I could do this guitar thing over that, and then someone else listens to that and they're like, oh well, this would actually go well with this drum beat that I've got going, and it's a collaborative work like that, and it's all kind of, it's like crowdsourced music, kind of. It's an interesting concept, definitely, but I don't really know how to feel about this, because I don't think that what Ubisoft is doing is inherently bad. Like, I think that them trying to involve their fans and involve their community in the development of their game, and for them to get potentially a bit of their artwork or their music or whatever it might be into the game, into the finished product, where they will be credited and they will be paid, is cool, right? Like, that's a good thing, but at the same time, I really, really disagree with spec work. Like, I really fundamentally disagree with it, and I don't think people should be asked to do work that they will never be paid for. Because fundamentally, I just don't think that that's fair. I don't think that's a fair thing, and you can't expect someone to dedicate their time and their energy to creating something that they will ultimately have no gain from. And we were talking about cynicism in the gaming industry, and I was joking about it earlier on, but I actually am quite genuinely trying not to be a cynical person.
Cynical about this.
I'm genuinely trying not to be cynical about this, and I do think that the thought process behind this from Ubisoft's perspective is in the good place. I want to believe, I will say, I want to believe that. However, I just don't think that this is a very good implementation of that thought process.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's problematic because this game is obviously costing, millions and millions and millions of dollars to make, and will rake in millions and millions of dollars. And so this isn't a huge amount of money to dish out. There's going to be a lot of people who put in some work for this and who don't get anything. And a lot of people, and this is the kind of core of it to me, a lot of people do not care about that. A lot of people are completely fine with the idea that they can, as you were kind of saying a little bit off air, it's sort of like or it could be seen by certain people as being like entering a competition. And if you want to enter a competition and you want to try and win the chance to get a bit of your creativity into this game, you are 100% fine to do that. Of course you are. If Ubisoft are doing it,
but that is the problem. That's not the way this has been.
Yeah,
is it?
And so
I was making that argument. I was being like, oh well, it's a bit like a competition that you would enter, and then if you enter, then you got the chance to be in a Ubisoft game, and you got the chance to get your art out there, which is a great kind of side thing. But the fact that they're like actively like, oh no, we'll pay you for this work is being like, am I actually applying for like sort of a job here? I don't know, there's somehow the actions that you would take doing both of those things are actually very similar.
Yeah.
For some reason, they're not quite the same.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if they said, oh, we'll give you a super duper deluxe pack of Watch Dogs Legion worth 200 and whatever pounds or whatever these nonsense things are, and we'll fly you out to Paris and you can visit the Ubisoft studios out there, and we'll give you a tour and you'll get the VIP treatment, and we'll put you up in a big hotel and it'll all be great and it'll be this great experience for you. I don't know, is that better?
I don't know that is necessarily
because like
better,
you're saying, it's still someone's time to pay their bills.
Yeah.
But then if it were a competition, then I mean, I guess it could be a competition for cash.
It's like you need
competitions generally aren't like that. They're like, oh, we'll do a thing for you.
It's like you need a barrier for entry first if you're going to make it work like that. You need for people to be able to kind of upload their portfolio first, say, so just work that they've made anyway, and Ubisoft can then say, okay, these 100 people can enter the competition, and then so just because then the amount of work being entered starts to drop. I have like some deeper kind of longer term issues with the idea. Primarily, Ubisoft are paying someone or multiple people, I presume, to make other music for this game.
Oh yeah, this is only 10 tracks in the game. This is going to be a fraction of the percentage of the music that's actually going to be in this game. They have a whole sound design department.
Yeah, exactly.
That are making the actual
and presumably
music for the game.
Licensing other songs and stuff like that.
Oh, of course,
and that's fine.
They'll have artists in.
And so the argument that will be made by some people that this is going to cost jobs is not going to happen, certainly in the short term. However, two things. There are 10 songs, and one of the ones that's been mentioned as being one of the things they're looking for is a, quotes, dark electronic heist song, which presumably will be used in a mission or a side mission or something like that. So if they didn't do this, they would presumably need to get music for this, and they would pay more than $2,000 for that music. Almost certainly.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
So as much as their heart might be in the right place, they are also saving money by doing this, which starts to make my cynical edge rise slightly.
But I don't know. Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on is this dark synth, whatever it was that you said, going to be used in every mission, or is it just going to be, oh, we'll put that in a side mission as a nod to that, and then in actual fact we have a dark synth thing that we use on 95% of the other missions. You know what I mean, like our own thing. So it's not instead of, it's as well as.
At the moment it's as well as, but it's just
we're being told it's as well as.
Well, and so I guess the argument there is then, so if you remove these 10, if they cancelled this competition, quotes, tomorrow, then would they just say, okay, well, we've got this other relatively useful piece of music, we'll just use that instead? I mean, very possibly, yeah. And
I mean, because if anything else, to avoid spending more money, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, they would be like, oh, well, we've got all this music, we'll just use something. You know what I mean?
Suppose it depends whether or not they have that. That's one aspect of it. And then the other thing is just, if this kind of partnership between Ubi and HitRecord takes off, or more interestingly, maybe if indie developers start to use services like HitRecord, and they and eventually fill imagine, for instance, not that it would ever have happened, but the makers of Celeste, Matt Makes Games, is that what that team's called?
Matt Makes Games. I can't remember. I'll get the guy's name. Continue making your point.
So he, they have incredible music in that game, and they've obviously
made by I'm sure the woman's name's Lana Rain,
who
made the music. She's I follow her on Twitter. She's really good. She's amazing. She makes really good music.
But imagine they decided to save a little bit of money and just put that whole game's scoring out onto something like HitRecord, crowdsourced it all, paid a fraction of the amount for it because you would get
Matt Thornton,
that's
and
right.
Lena Rain.
And so you pay a fraction of the money that you should pay to soundtrack that game, and you get it all from the community. So a lot of people are quite happy because their music is getting out there to the world, and they're getting their name in the credits of a game that they love. That's one thing.
But Matt Makes Games probably doesn't have the budget to do that. Is the big difference.
Well, they're probably paying her quite a bit though to do that. So what I mean is, so she loses out on the job, we lose out on someone with genuine creative talent scoring this whole game as one piece, and these community people, some of them are exploited and they don't get paid what they should get paid, or they do work and they don't get paid for having done that work. So it's just I guess my thinking on this isn't so much, this 10 tracks within an Ubisoft game is not going to make a big drop in the ocean, but does it start to let something into the industry that we could really do without?
Yeah, I mean, I must admit that is a concern. Like, that picture that you painted is pretty horrible, because indie games in my mind these days are just
so pure.
They are. Lewis, you've actually taken the words out of my mouth. I was going to say they're gaming at its purest. Do you know what I mean? They're often done by small teams. They're done by usually a programmer, some sort of designer / narrative writer, but usually someone to do the music. Maybe some other artists and things like that on the side. But I mean, that Matt Makes Games team for Celeste was like real small. Like, that was really, really small, and it just made a glorious piece of art. And I would hate to see indie games specifically. We've not done many episodes of the PlayersToo Podcast, but I hope that our love for indie games is definitely coming through. I would hate to see them tainted by this, and it would be like the loot boxes for indie games. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh well, we've brought out this amazing indie game, but yeah, we use spec work for half the crap on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it taints your experience of watching it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know if like David Cage games. And so last year, if you don't know, the Quantic Dream came out as having like a pretty toxic workplace, and David Cage and the other French chap, sorry, whose name is much more French than I would say, were very much kind of defending it and not really backing away, and it was all just it was very horrible and not very nice. And this was just at the time that Detroit Become Human came out, and we still played that game and enjoyed that game. I mean, I would say, but it just tainted the experience of it, just knowing, or for me it did anyway, just knowing that, I mean, the game is no less good because David Cage is an arsehole. Do you know what I mean? That is fundamentally true, but at the same time it taints your experience of the game.
Absolutely.
Or it does for me anyway. I mean, if you're someone who can completely isolate those two things, then great, I'm sure you had a much better time with the game than I did. I'm not even saying that I didn't enjoy it. I actually did quite like it. I would definitely play it again. It's on PlayStation Plus for free right now, so I'd actually recommend that if you are interested in the game, go and play it, because it's actually quite good. But at the same time, like, even now, even just saying that is like a bit of a joke. Like, I'm actually like, well, I'm promoting this man's game, who I actually think is probably a bit of a scumbag.
Yeah,
and I'm not really am I okay with that?
Yeah.
And if it gets to that point with smaller companies, or even bigger companies, do you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about Ubisoft, who are one of the biggest publishers of video games in the world. Do you know what I mean? This doesn't have to be to do with small indie games. Do you know what I mean? Like, how good do I feel about playing that game, knowing that they are using spec work to get a lot of their assets for these games, whether it be music, whether it gets to a point where it's character design or level design or things like that. Do you know what I mean?
That becomes really problematic.
It's terrifying.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a terrifying thought, to be honest with you.
All of these things are super important because the industry is becoming so much bigger, and the eyes on it, and the money it brings in, and the tax revenue it therefore generates and stuff. We're all complicit in that, and we have to be mindful of how our games are made and how the people who make them are treated. And that's one of the biggest issues in gaming right now.
And as well, even if you're someone who, and I don't really believe that a lot of these people exist out there, right? But if you're someone who is just like, I don't give a fuck how these games get made, I don't give a fuck what the conditions are for the people that make them. For a kick-off, I don't really believe that many of those people actually exist, right? Although sometimes we like to paint pictures of these people. But even if you are a person like that, if you actually love video games and you actually love playing good video games, do you know what produces good video games? Happy people who are happy to go to their jobs, who are excited about going into work that day and making the best video game that they can make. Not someone who's been beaten down by weeks and weeks of 100 hours after 100 hours trying to crunch and finish a game at the very end just so that they can get it through the door, just so that they can get some fucking sleep at night, just so they can see their family. That person doesn't make a good video game.
No.
It's important. It is genuinely important, and it's important if you love video games, because the model that we have just now with crunch and people being in horrible, terrible working conditions is not sustainable.
Yeah.
It is not sustainable. In 10 years, I genuinely believe that we're going to look back at this and look at that as if just, oh my god, what in the hell were we doing?
Well,
that is madness what we were doing back then, and I hope for that as well. But yeah, I think with all the eyes on crunch, all the eyes on game development, all the eyes on the industry, and there's just more and more people looking at it as time goes on. I think that this is an important conversation to have, because I think that what Ubisoft is doing and trying to get their fans involved in their games, great. If they can be involved at such a base level, at the development level, what an incredible thing to do for your game, what an incredible thing to do for your fans, what an incredible thing to do for your community. That's fantastic. Spec work, I do not believe is the way to go about that. Just fundamentally, I just do not think that is a good way to go. It's not a good look. It's not good that we're even having these conversations around games. Do you know what I mean? And I'd quite like it to go away before it's kind of like if we just jumped on loot boxes just before they started. It's just like, let's just nip this in the bud and let's just go, no, we're not having this. Not here, friends.
Yeah, and let's at least have a super rigorous conversation about it before it starts to take in more of the industry and more developers, because it could become a big old issue. And
I'm definitely going to buy Watch Dogs Legion. I'm super, super interested in that game and what it's promising and what it might deliver. So this hasn't put me off the game. Like I said, I'm choosing not to be super cynical about this. I genuinely believe that Ubisoft, who do have a good track record, that their heart was in the right place with this and trying to get their fans involved. Maybe this just wasn't the greatest implementation of that. Okay, I think we'll call it a day there. You can follow PlayersToo on all the social media. That's at PlayersToo on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the lot. You can find our written content over at PlayersToo.com. That's PlayerStoo.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts, that would be awesome. And while you're over there, if you could give us a wee review, that would be absolutely fantastic. We're not looking for a massive review, not a huge diatribe. Just a wee thumbs up emoji is more than good enough for us.
And remember to jump on and start playing Into the Breach. We've been playing that a little bit and you can play along with us. We'll be talking about it in a couple of weeks' time and sharing some thoughts on social media and on PlayersToo.com. So give us your thoughts as well and we'll feed them into the conversation in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Plenty of time just to jump in and play that game. It's not an overly long experience, but it's absolutely fantastic. Really great. Again, it was one of my favourite games from last year. And it's available for under £12 on both Nintendo eShop and Steam right now. There you go. Definitely worth that, but I would buy it on Switch if you had the option. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks.